good evening, ladies. Do me a favor and type your name in the chat box for me so we can get attendance. And let me go ahead and post the survey so that I do not forget. Uh-oh. Click the wrong box. Tonight we are going to be talking about being a leader, but knowing when to follow. And it shouldn't be a long one. But I always say that it ended up going about 45 minutes anyway. So without further ado, let's get started. Anybody else joins, they are more than welcome to. Oh, wait. Give me a second, ladies. I forgot to do share screen. I was about to start and I'm like, hold on, they can't see me. Okay, there we go. Now let's go. All righty, being a leader, but knowing when to follow. Here I go again with the clicking. I'm trying to move things around so I don't mess up anything. All right, here we go. Being a leader, but knowing when to follow. Okay, I'm assuming myself and my mouse are not getting along tonight, but it is what it is. As every Thursday, I want to say good evening for myself, Dr. King, and give you some information about myself. You ladies already know, but the rest of the world who may watch this don't. So personally, I'm a 34-year resident of Duncanville, Texas. I've lived in the 800 Link community for 18 years, and I'm a wife and a mother. Excuse me. Educationally, I'm a graduate of Duncanville High School. I have an associate's degree in liberal arts from El Centro College, a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of Texas of the Permian Basin, a master's degree in organizational management from the University of Phoenix, and an education doctorate in sports management from North Central University. I consider myself a servant leader, so my servant leadership roles are 25 plus years working in corporate America in various industries, 12 years working in higher education, teaching business, management, leadership, human resources, social sciences, humanities, motivation, and professional development courses. 12 years as a grassroots girls basketball coach for the Lady Panthers Girls Basketball Association. I've worked 12 years as a parent volunteer for Duncanville ISD. I've served in the capacity as president and vice president of PTA. I've served in various roles, various sports leagues and in the DFW, and congratulations to us today. We are now considered a National Youth Sports Strategy Champion Federal Program team that occurred today about 1:30, and that just means that we're going to be helping the federal government increase the numbers of kids playing sports and just being active and participating in physical education, and also trying to lessen the obesity rate of American children. So I'm pretty excited about that, and that's who I am. And as always, what peers, TI Communities Peers, does this presentation focus on? It's going to always be education and community building more than anything. There may be others sometimes, but it would always be those two. And then who does this presentation benefit? This presentation will benefit anyone seeking to enhance their leadership skills, be it in school or within their careers. It is open to all ages from the point of understanding leadership concepts to those who are adults. And we also have Poe EV going tonight. I keep forgetting to post that to you ladies. Let me type that for you right quick. I always say I'm not going to use Poe EV and then end up using it anyway. It's just fun to use. Just a second. Okay. So click that link, the polev.com link, and answer the question, what percentage of burnout do you think that leaders experience? As soon as these responses start coming in, and it's you two ladies right now, type as many as you want. And when they start popping in and you start hitting enter, what is burnout? Sierra, burnout is where you are just completely tired of doing something to the point where you're just done, or you feel like you're done and you don't want to do it anymore. Athletes experience it a lot when they, it doesn't matter. You play basketball. So with basketball athletes, you can play basketball all your life, and people will expect you to go to college and play ball or stuff like that. And your junior year, you just make it that you have no desire to play basketball at all. So that's burnout. Alina Deladon actually suffered from burnout her senior year in high school when she played basketball. Alina Deladon actually did not even go to college on a basketball scholarship. She went to college on a volleyball scholarship. She actually her senior year, she got all of these offers and all of that, and everything was good. But by the time she completed her senior year, she was completely done with basketball. So she felt she was experiencing burnout. And she decided to not play basketball in college, at least for the, I don't think she actually played at all, but I could be wrong. She ended up going, but I do believe her first 2 years of college was actually volleyball. So there we go. So burnout is just, you're tired. You love it, but you're just tired. And sometimes some people experience burnout and they're done. Sometimes some people experience burnout and all they want to do is go on vacation. That's kind of where vacations and all those things come from on the job, because people get tired, you get burned out, you get overwhelmed, you want to do something different. And a lot of times just going on a good week vacation or something like that allows your body to transition back to that force of wanting to be, get back on the job and do what you're supposed to do. So that's what burnout means. You're to the point where you're just ready to stop. And for some, they actually do. Some don't ever come back after they experience burnout for something. They just don't want to do whatever that is anymore. For others, they just take a break. Some, that self-care that we always talk about, you take a break, experience some self-care, go through some self-care, go on vacation, go to the spa, you do whatever you need to do to get your mind back where it needs to be. And then you're ready to jump. I mean, I've experienced it some, in several different ways, but I never quit. I take a break and I come back to it. So remembering from last week, our definition of a leader, leadership is defined as the position of the function, excuse me, ladies, the position of function of a leader, which is a person who guides or directs a group. I just realized a typo, oh well. The synonyms of leadership are administration, authority, influence, command, control, and power. Those are all, when you think of a leader, these are synonymous with leadership, or synonymous with being a leader. These are people that are in positions of authority. They have the ability to influence others. They're in command. They're in control. They are the power people. Those are the people with the power titles. So we think. But most often, really good leaders will be in positions of leadership with the titles to accompany it. But what leadership is not, is leadership has nothing to do with seniority or one's position in the hierarchy of a company or organization. A person with a powerful title, they may be a leader and they may be really good at what they do, but you may not always find all of your leaders in positions of leadership on the job as far as titles. So their leadership title may not necessarily, people may not view them as a leader, even though they hold a leadership title. Hey, Sheila, do me a favor, type your name in the box, and somebody do me a favor and copy and paste both the survey and the poll everywhere link for Sheila so she can have those. And Sheila, when you get a chance, go to the poll EV and answer the question, what was my question? Yeah, I am tired today. I'm so sorry. I've been worn out all day. I've been, me, y'all know me, when I get mentally, into something later on in the day, I am mentally drained. And this, it's presentation day. I was not going to not do my presentation today, but I am tired. So just go with me. But the question is, what percentage of burnout do you think that leaders experience, Sheila? And that's the question. And you can answer that on the Poll EV site. And as I tell you, ladies, you can answer these questions more than once. When it comes to mine, put it on there. Like I said, I always try to come back at the end of the and see if anything extra has been added. And so moving ahead, leaders are not all encompassing. And that is something that we have to understand. People think that leaders always know everything, always can do everything, always can solve everything. And for the most part, we feel that way. We do feel like that we can do everything, but unfortunately we cannot. We are not all encompassing. We are not God. We try to do as much as we can to help others, but we are not gods. And we have to know that. Some people have to be told that. There are some professions, surgeons, for example, who walk around and act like they're gods because they literally have people's lives in their hands. But unfortunately, we're not all encompassing. So saying that leaders do not know everything, we don't. Leaders cannot solve everything. We can try, but we can't. Leaders will not be able to lead everyone. We can try, but we can't. Everybody is not going to be responsive to us. And, that's, it all comes in, like I used to always talk about, you would hear me in my presentations discussing that you have to know the people that you lead. And that doesn't so much apply when you're leading thousands of people and you just can't sit there and talk to all of these people. But for the most part, even with thousands of people, you can still find out things about them, surveys and all that type of stuff. But there is a possibility often there that there's just going to be somebody that is not going to respond to your leadership style. They're not going to like you. And a lot about being a leader is a lot of times you have to like that person. There has to be a level of respect, at least a baseline level of respect for that person. It's hard to follow a person that you don't like. So you may not be able to lead everyone, and that could just be because somebody doesn't like you, and it doesn't matter what you say, it's because of who you are. Somebody else can say the same thing that you're saying, and they may like that person and respond to that person. They may not lead and follow you or, under your leadership because they don't like you. Sometimes it's just that simple. Leaders will not be able to influence everyone. Same thing as not being able to lead everyone. You won't be able to influence anyone, everyone to do what you want to do. Good leaders will influence most, but not all. It's hard to get 100% of people to do anything. We just found that out with the election. So, it's hard to understand that as a leader. You want to know that what you're doing in some way affects everybody in a positive way to where they want to follow you and your direction positively, but unfortunately that does not happen. We have to be honest about that. It just doesn't happen. And leaders do not possess all leadership skills. We talked about that last week. There are different categories of leadership styles. We've gone through 6 of them last week. The laissez-faire, authoritarian, servant leader, transformational leadership, remember all that stuff we talked about last week. Well, in addition to that leadership style, you have to subscribe to one of those. Either you know it or somebody's going to tell you what your leadership style is. But there are also different skill sets that leaders must have, and everybody is not going to be the master of all the leadership skills. Remember, we talked about those last week as well. Everybody is not going to master every leadership style. The point is to work on your skills. So you may be, here in this skill, but not here in this, and here in this one, doing like that. So you have to be able to say that you may not possess all the leadership skills, but you are working on them and you are trying to master them. And that's all anybody can really ask. And so the most effective leaders understand that they do not know everything. Neither are they always the greatest influence. But being a leader, a great leader requires knowing when to lead and when to follow. When you do not have all the answers, a lot of times you're going to be in a room with somebody that can answer a question you don't know. That's why they say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You should never be the smartest person in the room. Even as an educator, we always seem like we're the masters and the kids are there to follow us and lead me. There are some kids who are really intelligent. And as a leader, especially as an educator, sometimes you have to be able to say, I don't know. But remember, even saying I don't know, remember being fluid. You got to be able to say I don't know, but you have to know where to go find the answer and enhance your own learning at that point. Same way with this. Great leaders know when to lead. They also know when to follow. You have to know your strengths. And that's even for me. I don't know everything. I may feel like I do and I may act like I do, but I don't. And there are people that I can go to when there's things that I don't know and help that I need. So the first 4 questions that you have to ask of yourself are, as a leader, is can you see beyond the status quo? Are you trying to challenge the status quo or stay within those boundaries? If you're trying to stay within the boundaries of the status quo of what's going on within your organization or the employer that you work for or whatever, if your idea is just to stay in that box, then you're not a leader. It's not time for you to lead. It's time for you to follow, because leaders challenge the status quo. It doesn't mean that we try to go out and break rules, not that we try to circumvent rules. We're trying to come up with other ways of doing things. We're trying to be innovative. So companies and organizations that are not innovative don't grow, and eventually they die out. So as a leader, you have to be ready to challenge the status quo. If you're still trying to stay within the boundaries of what's going on, then you're not ready to lead yet. That's when it's time for you to still be in that the role of follower, and to find a leader that's trying to get you to the role of being an innovator and challenge the status quo. The second question is, are you focused? Are you managing your time, and can you handle more than one project at a time? Leaders are masters of time management. I didn't say they always do it, but they are masters of time management. They're always working on trying to master their time. I'm always working on trying to master my time. I hold a lot of roles. I wear a lot of hats. I'm actually blessed that my life is such that my hats correlate with each other. So it's not, I don't have any outline roles I'm playing where it completely contradicts the rest of my life. I'm actually blessed. And it was done by design. I tell people all the time, everything that I do is done by design. So the roles that I do and the roles that I assume, I've learned to manage my time with those. I know, what I can do and not. But if you are not a good manager of your time and you can't handle more than one project at a time, then maybe being a leader is not for you right now. A leader has to be able to, switch roles and compartmentalize. That's the best word I can use with it. A good leader knows how to compartmentalize their time. Third, are you motivating others? Are you leading with intrinsic goals or extrinsic goals? Leaders are intrinsically driven. They are not driven by money. A lot of leaders make good money, but they're not driven by that. They are intrinsically driven. That means intrinsic means inside. Your goals, your mission, your values come from inside of you. Extrinsically, that's money, accolades, people patting you on your back, giving you awards. We like those things. The most extrinsic person in the world still wants to be appreciated for what they do. Don't get me wrong. But intrinsic, really good leaders are intrinsically motivated. We don't have to have someone patting us on our back, telling us good job. We do appreciate it, because like I said, everybody wants to be appreciated for what they do, but we don't need it because we're going to do it regardless. So, and then another one is, do others see the passion in you for leading? Everybody has something that they're good at. I talk about that all the time, even with my friends and my daughter. Everybody has something that they are good at. Once you figure out what you are good at, you can start a company doing that. It doesn't matter what it is. You can sell anything, or you can just start an organization, a nonprofit organization, helping others do the very thing that you love to do. There are a lot of those out there as well. But in so doing, when you lead, the passion that comes through your words, that comes across your face and your actions and your behaviors, people ought to be able to see that come off of you. So if you're doing something you are truly supposed to be doing, God-given talent for whatever that is, people will see it in you. Take Pharrell, for instance. That boy is a music savant and he knows it. And he is making millions of dollars at that. There's nothing wrong with that. Maya Angelou, savant at writing, beautiful poetry. She knew what she needed to do. We can come up in all different types of people who are really good and passionate about what they do, and they're able to lead others. Most people, when they do those things, they're able to lead others into that very thing as well. So you have to have a passion. Do people see the passion in you for what you're doing? It's called being authentic. If you're not authentic in what you're doing, especially kids will figure that out real quickly, but adults will, just not as quickly. So when you're trying to lead somebody, lead it in something you're passionate about. Number 4, are you confident? Are you confident in your own hard and soft skills and abilities to handle what needs to be done? And this is where, in the slide before, everybody doesn't have all leadership skills mastered. This is where that is. Are you confident in your hard and soft skills? Remember, hard skills are the things that you learn to do something. The things that you go to school for, the things that you take classes to do. Those are hard skills. Learning how to use computer software, learning how to use the computer itself, learning how to build a computer, learning how to work the internet, learning how to install hardware and software. Those are hard skills. Soft skills are your people skills, emotional intelligence, learning how to motivate others, those types of things. So what are you confident in? What skills, you have to know yourself. You have to sit down, think about everything, hard skills, everything, soft skills that and then evaluate where you are on the spectrum for those, and you get to working on those. You're never going to hit 100%. We can try, we can get as far as I'm concerned, 99.99999, but we will never hit 100. But the point is to strive. So you have to be confident in your own skills and abilities if you want to lead. If you don't, it comes across as unauthentic, just fake as can be. And so important, as we grow in our professional development, there will be times when at least one of these answers will be no. Can you see yourself beyond the status quo? Are you focused? Are you motivating others? Are you confident? There are some times in life that one, if not all of those questions may be no. But you must acknowledge that you will not know everything at all times. And you must also acknowledge that you will attempt to learn what you do not know. And sometimes that means following others who do know. And it becomes, is almost a pride issue, because people in leadership skills sometimes do not want to admit that they don't know everything about that. There's everybody, like I said, has something that they're good at, but you still don't know everything. I have a doctorate in sports management, but that doesn't mean that I know everything about sports management. I just know as much as I could learn in the time frame I had about sports leadership. I consider myself a subject matter expert on sports leadership. But even within that, there are still parts of sports leadership that I didn't focus on because it was not the scope of my dissertation. So just because I know a lot and I'm what they consider a SME, which is subject matter expert, SME, SME, I'm a SME with sports leadership topics, of ethics and service leadership, but there are other parts of sports leadership that I am not, I'm not a SME on, and that's fine. So there are others who are, and there are times when there are things that I'm learning and discussing that I may be out of my realm with, and when I get to that point, I stop talking. I start to listen to others. And sometimes it's just good to not talk and listen to others, even when you do know, because you will learn that you are looking at things one way, and two people can look at one picture two different ways. That's the same thing with anything. Just because you know something, somebody else knows it too. They just may know it from another viewpoint. So sometimes it pays to just sit back and shut up sometimes and listen. And so leading can sometimes lead to burnout. When that's another, when you need to follow, because you start to get burned out. And a lot of times you're getting burned out because you're tired. You're trying to lead so much and with so much passion that it is emotionally and physically draining. Sometimes you have to turn over. That's called delegating authority, and job duties and things like that. You sometimes get burned out, and you have to step back and let somebody else shine. It's time for you to step back and let somebody else shine. And so leaders assume responsibility for everything and everyone, and that can sometimes lead to becoming overwhelmed. And I am blessed to have a coaches, in my program that even if I decide one day I'm not coaching, I have 4 other people that are more than capable and very willing to step up and coach the girls. And I can just sit back in the stands and focus on other things, or just sit back in the stands and completely zone out, but it leads to burnout. And like I said, I burn out just like everybody else do. I have my moments where I just don't want to coach, or I just don't want to deal with it, and I will leave it alone. And sometimes you have to do that. And when you do that, you put others in control and allow them to do them. Sometimes being a leader means you got to step back and let other people shine too. It's not all about you. You got people that are following you have to some point be able to learn to lead themselves. So sometimes you have to become the follower of the very people that you are actually teaching to lead. And it is fun. I love to see my coaches shine. What am I trying to say? What's the word I'm looking for, y'all? When arrogantly, sometimes I get arrogant with it. I love to see, sit back and watch my coaches coach, because I know they're good at what they do. And it makes me feel good to know that my coaches are doing what they're doing. And sometimes I'll do that and let them coach just so they can work on their leadership skills, or I will sit on the bench with them and they become the head coach, and now I'm their assistant coach. You got to be willing to do that. You got to come off that soapbox and come off of your high horse. And sometimes you have to let your leaders lead, your followers lead, and you will see just how good they are. You have to allow them to develop as well. And that lessens some of that burnout. It doesn't mean you're still not going to be overwhelmed sometimes, but when you allow others to assume the lead and watch them flourish and watch them grow and grow into their own, it lessens that burnout and that overwhelming feeling, but it also makes you proud to see them coming into their own. And then leaders need relationships with other leaders, period, point blank. No leader actually leads on their own anyway, and definitely not all the time. Leaders need others to bounce ideas off of, discuss when they lack knowledge about something, and others to look up to in order to stay motivated to continue to professionally develop. That's where the conferences come from. I love going to the USA basketball conferences. Those that know me with the basketball know that I consider Don Showalter one of my mentors. Don Showalter is the most winningest coach in USA basketball history. And he is, like I said, Pharrell is a music savant. To me, Don Showalter is a basketball savant. Mr. Don, as I call him, I can just call him and sometimes just talk, or ask him a question and just let him talk and I listen. And people are always, you don't know Don Showalter. I have Don Showalter's number in my phone and I can call him and email him whenever I want. And that's fine. It's not about bragging, but you have to find other people that when you don't know, you can now become the follower and lead and listen to someone else lead. But you have to have not just one, you need plenty of them. I know several, basketball coaches where sometimes I just call and bounce ideas off of them. Not too many, but sometimes there are others that I can call and talk to, and we're just, vibing and listening to what they're doing. They're listening to what I'm doing. We're coming up with ideas of things to do. Sometimes you have to do that. You have to have like-minded individuals around you so that you don't feel like you are the leader of the world as far as whatever you're doing. There are others that are just as good as you, that are just as competent as you are. And you need to find those people and get around those like-minded people, and you learn from them. They learn from you, you learn from them. And when you do that, it's a win-win situation for everybody. And then again, leaders need to be fluid. Leaders need to understand that they are not gods, and there will be times when they will not know something. A leader can be an expert in their field on a topic in all its vastness, but still have parts of that field of industry that they have no clue about. There still are. But that's what I was talking about earlier about me with the whole servant leadership and, and sports leadership roles with my dissertation. We need to be able to acknowledge when we don't know something. We have to be able to say, you know what, I just don't know and I need to find out. And the sad part is when you don't know and you don't try to find out and you don't try to learn. The best part is saying, I don't know, but I will have an answer for you, or saying to yourself, you don't know this. So you now need to sit down, find some type of coaching resources and get this information learned, or whatever it is that you do. For me, my coaches laugh at me all the time because I'm always earning a certification in something or a certificate in something basketball related. This week, I started learning what, the process of what needs to be done to become a Special Olympics coach, or what they call an adapted coach. Those are youth or adults with disabilities, but they still have the cognizant know-how to play a sport. Just because they're disabled does not mean they can't play sports. As long as they, have the body function, to be able to do the sport that they're trying to do. The rules are a little different, with things, because a lot of times they're playing with, wheelchairs and things like that. But that's my thing right now. So I told my coaches, I'm like, y'all, I just got a certificate on Special Olympics. And they were like, what? Yay, because they know me. I'm always trying to learn something. So yeah, that's my thing right now. My new thing to learn is, everything that what needs to be, especially with this NYSS champion program. I got to be able to work with all types of kids, not just able-bodied kids, but, disabled. I hate to say disabled, but I need to be able to work with all types of kids. So yes, this week I've taken free courses on how to coach adapted kids, and then what all it takes to become a coach in the Special Olympics. So that's my thing this week, and those are things that I did not know. If anybody would have asked me prior to this week, and still ask me right now, because it's new. I've been coaching, not normal, but I've been coaching able-bodied kids for years, but I've never coached a child with some type of deficiency, not mental deficiency, but like a physical deficiency of some kind. So this is new territory for me. And I can honestly say that I do not know, even reading the rules and everything, I don't know everything. I can't even say I do. I would have to go to see a couple of games, see how everything's run, stuff like that. So right now I'm fluid when it comes to adaptive coaching or adaptive coaching is what they call it. So I'm fluid right now in saying that I don't know. And I'm learning, but as long as I'm learning, that's half the battle. Knowing is half the battle, G.I. Joe. But important, leadership skills are more about pulling together the right ensemble than trying to create the right hierarchy. We can't keep trying to, this. Leadership is not this. That's why in a lot of companies, people that are in leadership positions are not really your true leaders. A lot of times it tends to be somebody sitting right next to you, or even a janitor or the security guard. It has nothing to do with title, it's mindset. So when you have the right ensemble of people around you, you guys are learning from each other and you're bouncing ideas off each other and innovative and creative things off each other. That's leadership. At some point, one person is going to be leading more than others, but everybody is leading at some point. There's something better than somebody else. That's why a lot of times you see a lot of group things in schools where the kids, are made to lead one project or 1 week or something like that. And that's because it's what we're saying. You got to be fluid to know what you're good at and what you're not. There are some things you're going to be good at and some things somebody else is going to be good at. And you have to be able to be fluid and step back sometimes and give them their time to shine. They give you theirs and all that type of stuff. It's about having the right group of people around you. I'm blessed to have a really good group of coaches, and any award that I've ever received for myself or even on behalf of Lady Panthers, I have never received those awards alone. The award may have my name on it, but as far as I'm concerned, my entire coaching staff earned that award. And when I present it to the public, I present it to the public as my entire coaching staff, the coaches of Lady Panthers Girls Basketball Association. It's never going to be me because I didn't do any of this by myself. I could not have even tried to. So you have to have that right ensemble of people around you and not try to say, I'm the leader and these are my minions. We see how that went. So moving right along. And like I told you guys, ladies, this wasn't going to be a long one this week. It's actually, knowing when to follow does not take an hour to discuss. It's a subset of mastering leadership skills. So the summary is, a leader is a person who guides and directs others. And before I get started, if you have any questions, let me check the chat box. Does anybody have any questions or anything? I don't see any questions. Thank you, ladies, for posting that stuff for Sheila and typing your names. But if you have any questions or anything, you can post that. I'll go back and look at the poll anywhere right after the summary to see if anybody's added anything new. But for the summary, a leader is a person who guides and directs others. But leaders are not all encompassing. There are 4 questions that leaders must ask themselves. We just went through that. Do you manage your time well? Are you experiencing burnout? Things like that. Those are questions that you have to ask yourself and regularly to keep yourself in check and be accountable for where you are as far as mastering your leadership skills. Leading can lead to burnout. And like I said, my daughter asked me earlier, what is burnout? You can love something so much that it becomes overwhelming and it wears you out. Burnout is basically something that wears you out. And in this situation, that's what we're talking about with leadership. Being passionate about leading sometimes will make you overwhelmed in your job duties and responsibilities, and you will lead to being burned out. So, self-care comes in with that. Take care of yourself. Take some time off. Step back. The world is not going to die because you go on vacation. If you die tomorrow, your job will have you replaced before they put you in the ground. So know that you have to take time to practice self-care when you start leading others, because you can't lead somebody when you yourself are not at 99.999. And then leaders need to develop relationships with other leaders. Know who the other leaders are in what you do, and some of those people, you're not going to gel and vibe with everybody, but find the ones that you do. And those are the ones y'all exchange information and you bounce ideas off each other. Sometimes you just call and check on each other and see what's going on. We'll see what's happening in the industry that you may not know about that you're in. So you need to always develop and find relationships with other leaders. And then leaders need to be fluid in their leadership abilities. You need to know your strengths and weaknesses. They have what's called the SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Those are normally for businesses, but you can conduct a SWOT analysis on yourself. That is a good topic. January, we're going to talk about SWOT because my topics for this month and next month are already approved. So January, we will be discussing SWOT analysis, personal SWOT analysis. But you have to know your abilities, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and find those things out and start working on them. Just because you have a strength in something doesn't mean you can't continue to master it. And just because you have a weakness in something does not mean that you are not good at it. You just have to work a little harder. And that's where the opportunities and the threats and things comes in. So SWOT analysis, good topic. We're going to talk about that in January. But I am, references, anybody need to know where I found any information, here it is. And next week, we will be discussing having pride in yourself. I'm throwing that out there. If you have any questions, like I said, type them in the box and we're going to get to that in just a second. But next week's topic is having pride in yourself. And we need that needs to be discussed more often than. But does anybody have any questions on anything? And while I'm on this slide, let me go back to the where is my, oh, here it is. Do we have any other answers going on here? 30%, what percentage of burnout do you think that leaders experience? I mean, there is no right answer, right or wrong answer. There's someone said between 60 and 70, and someone said about 30. I mean, both of those could be right. There is no set, there are all kinds of studies and all that stuff. I'm sure I can go out and find some study. But at the end of the day, everybody experiences burnout at some point. No good leader is ever a good leader all the time. I don't care if you're just the leader of your house. You're not operating at 100% all the time. You even as a stay-at-home mom, I experience burnout sometimes. You get tired. Burnout is really just extreme tired, worn out, just done. But you can't give up. For some people, like I said, there are some people that they experience burnout and they're done. Once they walk away from it, they're not coming back. There are some people like myself, we experience burnout and we have to step back. And sometimes when you do experience burnout and you step back, you refocus and you figure out your why. Remember, I told you, you have to always know your why for why you're doing something. For those that experience burnout, it's not that, they're just done. And that's fine. For some, they just need to step back and take some personal time, practice self-care, and they can come back and be ready to go. And that's fine as well. You just have to know where you are on that spectrum. So whether it's 60% or 30% of people that, leaders that burn out, I don't care. The best leaders, at some point have had to step back and say, this is crazy and I need to go on vacation. We do it. You do it. Everybody's a leader in some type of way, whether you're a parent or running a company or whatever. We're all leaders in some type of way. And we have all experienced burnout. Just make sure that when you do, you practice self-care. Let me get back. I don't see any questions. I can't get off the screen. Okay, there we go. Let me pull up the slides so I can get back to where we're going. I don't see questions, ladies. Other than Sierra's that I answered earlier. I'm scrolling up and down the list is what I'm doing. Sierra, I hope that I answered your question fine. Was it a good answer for you on what burnout is? And some people want to say kids are too young to experience burnout. That's not necessarily true anymore. Okay, good deal. Because, with kids starting sports and doing everything young and the specializing and all that type of stuff, kids do experience burnout sooner than later. Like I said, there are some kids that they play basketball since they were 5 or 6 years old. And by the time they get to high school, they are done. It ain't even about burnout. They're just done. I'm sick of this. And that's an extreme case of burnout, but kids do experience burnout. I don't think that just because my daughter is a teenager that she has never experienced burnout. Kids do experience burnout. As parents, we have to acknowledge that as well and teach them how to practice self-care. But there are no questions or anything. If anybody has any questions for me, you know how to contact me, 800-EDUCATOR-BRIDGET at TICommunities.com or Facebook.com/Dr. Bridget M. King, EDD. And we are done with this week. I told you, ladies, this wasn't going to be a long thing this week. It doesn't take much to teach someone that sometimes you have to learn how to follow. It doesn't take a long lecture to do that. And we literally have a little under 21 minutes left. But if you ladies don't have anything, everybody has the links to the survey. Make sure you guys are filling out those surveys. They are taking those surveys seriously. So make sure you fill it out. If you have any other topics that you want me to cover, put it in the survey. They do read those surveys. And, you know, if there's things mentioned or something that needs to be addressed, they will go to the person and say, hey, you know, your viewers want to see this, you want this topic covered. Or, hey, you know, there's something that's going on in your survey that we may need to address, you know, whatever it is. I'm just letting you know that they do read these. Don't, oh, hold on. Do not move. I almost forgot to take my picture. And I almost forget every week. So I have to take my picture. Awesome. So I want to thank you ladies for coming this week. Next week, like I said, we're discussing having pride in yourself. And I have no idea how long it's going to be because I haven't even thought about it. I just created the slides for that presentation yesterday just to get it up and going so I could tell you what we were doing. But I hope to see you next week. Love you all. Thank you. Like I said, you can do anything with your night, but you chose to do it with me, and I love you and I appreciate it. So thank you, everybody. Have a good evening, and bye-bye.